Do you remember the first gen Honda Insight? It's kind of weird looking, kind of ugly, looked like a spaceship. You do? Good. Do you remember the second gen when it started to look like a Prius and more like a hybrid? You do? Good. Well, this one, the all-new 2019 Insight, is completely different from any generation of Insight. Today I'm out here in this 90-degree weather, which is hot, checking out the all-new 2019 Insight Touring today and showing it to you guys. So let's see if it still lives up to its name of being Honda's hybrid and if it actually could be a Prius killer in disguise. Let's check it out. So starting off on the outside, you can definitely see that Honda's gone to the more traditional route for this generation of the Insight, just because it looks more like a sedan. And actually, it's a little bit bigger than a Civic and smaller than an Accord. So you're going to be seeing Civic-like interior volume. That's just a heads up. Anyways, I kind of like it. I actually really like how this Insight looks. The only thing I don't like is the wheels, just because they look a lot weirder in person. It's actually a 5-spoke design, but this is more like a gray instead of a black. In pictures it looks black. I would like it if it was black, just to look a little bit nicer, for my taste at least. But overall, I really like the car. And you'll first see that you have these LED headlights. They're full LEDs on this model. So you have the LED turn signal, DRL, low beam and high beam. And this one also has LED fog lights down there. And down here is one of the sensors for your Honda sensing. Also, there's some up on the windscreen. The car just turned on. And there's just a glimpse of what the turn signal looks like. It's actually pretty bright, and I really like the style of it. I really like what Honda's been doing to their headlights. It looks a lot more upscale than before. And you can also see Honda's traditional waterfall style grille coming from the Accord, and that's been getting implemented into all of their models, even the new Pilot and HR-V. But coming around the side, going back to these wheels, they're actually 17s, and they're wrapped around Continental Pro Contact TX tires. They're all seasons, and it's more of an economy based tire because they're 215s, so don't expect to have too much fun with this car. But anyways, you have these mirrors with turn signal indicators on them. They're also heated and they don't power fold, but you do have lane watch. So lane watch is this little button, and it activates when you turn on the right turn signal, and it shows up on the screen right there a view of what you'll see in your blind spot, which is really helpful downtown, especially in DC, because there's a lot of bikers everywhere. And there's what the camera looks like right there, and I can see myself. Coming around the back, this is where you see the most traditional sedanish looking style. It sort of does have that fastback look from the Civic and the Accord. This is actually a really good looking sedan. I think it's one of Honda's best looking. Besides the Accord, just the rear end of the Accord, I kind of have mixed emotions with that. But as you can see here, you have almost full LED tail lights, but the reverse and turn signals are incandescent bulbs, but the running lights and brake lights are LEDs. And I really like the design of it, but for some reason I don't really like this clear piece. I don't know if it'll grow on me, but for some reason I like the concepts look better. And of course you can see the hybrid touring badges over here, and of course, since this is a hybrid, you don't have exposed exhaust tips, but there it is right there. I like the chrome on this car. It sort of suits it because it's not that sporty of a car, it's more of a conventional car. And coming over to the trunk, you have a button over here which releases it, or you can also open it from inside the car or on the key fob. But coming in here, you have 15 cubic feet of volume, so that's right around the same as the Accord hybrid, if I'm pretty sure. But you don't have a spare tire, you just have a pump for your tires over there. But the rear seats do fold down, which is nice because the battery pack is actually underneath the seats. But this is one of the main differences between the Prius and this car, is that you have a more sedan-like trunk and the Prius is more of a liftback. Now before we get inside, this particular color is called White Orchid Pearl. I chose this color specifically because I like white cars. It's just they're a pain to keep clean. Anyways, here's the key fob. So it's Honda's traditional hybrid key fob with the blue accent on the back, and then looks like any other Honda key fob with your lock, unlock, remote start, trunk release, and panic button. And for a remote start, you just hit the lock button once and hold the start button, and then it should start up after it flashes. And it's running now. And then to turn it off, you can just press and hold the button again, and then it'll shut off. Now, getting in the car, you have the smart key access system, so you can just grab the door handle. It'll beep twice to show that it's unlocked, and then to lock it, just press this little indentation up here, and it'll beep once. Now, getting inside, the interior color of this one is called Ivory, which it's just more like a white or a really light gray. But the only problem I'd have, or if you're looking at this car, if you wear dark pants or dark clothes to work, the fabric would start to discolor the seats down here and on the bolsters. If that's not a huge problem, you can use leather wipes and then just clean that off. You have an 8-way power driver's seat. I'm surprised you don't have power lumbar, but I guess since this is a mid-level car, it's not that big of a deal. But you do have perforated leather seats with stitching over here. And looking at the door panel, this is all soft touch material up here. It's not real leather, but it is a pretty nice feeling material. And you have more soft touch materials over here for the armrest and side of the door. The driver and passenger side windows are automatic. I believe the Prius has all 4 windows of which are automatic, so if that's a big deal to you, go Prius. But there's the window locks, door locks, and mirror controls, and down here is the trunk release, and you have a little bottle holder and some storage down here, and some tweeters and speakers all around the car. Now, looking at the dash before I sit inside, there's the trip reset button, the brightness for the gauges, the fuel cap release, Honda sensing, which turns it on or off, and it allows you to switch through all the different features, and there's your traction control off button over here. Now, getting inside, the step-in height's actually pretty nice. It's kind of not too low. It's familiar to an Accord if you're used to that. But looking at the interior, I really like it. First off, this is my first real impression of it because I just drove it to this park and started filming. But I really like the interior of it. The steering wheel comes right off of the Accord, which I like. It's 3-spoked and leather wrapped. It's not heated, but that might be an option. Now, on the left side of the wheel, you have your volume and audio controls, so there's your volume here. And these 2 buttons actually scroll through the information screen, which I'll show you guys in a second. There's your track forward and backward buttons, your back button, Bluetooth phone buttons to pick up, hang up, and voice control, and the horn. Kind of has a meep meep horn. And over here are your cruise control settings, so main turns it on or off, cancel, set, resume, accelerate, decelerate. There's your adaptive cruise control button and your lane keep assist button. And those 2 really work. It's kind of freaky how well the lane keep assist works and the adaptive cruise control. This car can almost drive itself. You can just apply a little bit of pressure to the wheel every few seconds, or just lightly hold the wheel anywhere, and it can almost drive itself, which is crazy for a Honda, but it's great. Over here you have paddle shifters, but they're not actual paddle shifters. They don't shift gears in the car because the car doesn't even have any gears, because it's an electronic CVT, and it's not really even a CVT. It's just more like set gears, like the Accord hybrid. But the paddle shifters on this car actually control the regenerative braking. Now, behind that, you have your headlight controls, which are automatic, and your wiper controls, which are also automatic, so that's nice that they're rain sensing. And now, starting the car, it's just like any other push button start car, so you just put your foot on the brake with the key in your pocket or your purse, press the power button, and since this is a hybrid, it's quiet, unless if it's really hot like now, and the gas motor will actually kick on. Now, like I said, I'm really a fan of how this interior looks, and it's all high quality feeling materials. The car makes me feel like I'm in an Acura, but it's still a Honda. Actually, I still feel like I'm in a Honda because Honda has actually stepped up their game, so I'm very impressed. All of the soft touch materials and everything is tight. And this leather piece right here, which feels really nice with stitching over here. I don't think it's real stitching, but it's still nice to see that. And it goes all the way down here to the armrest, which is also soft touch. But the only thing is right here, it's plastic. You're not really going to be touching that, and it doesn't really bother my knee when I'm resting there because my knee's kind of down here, but still it's all plastic down here, but it's not uncomfortable at all. Now looking at the gauges, it's almost fully digital just like most other Hondas. So on the left you have your information screen, on the right you have your analog speedometer and fuel gauge, and on the far left you have your battery charging gauge. So that just shows the battery life of the car. Now to control that little screen, like I said, you use the home button and this little scrolling knob. So if you hit the home button now and scroll up, it'll show just the gauge for the power and charge, eco drive, power flow, range and fuel, which just shows that you have 495 miles of range, and that's on a full tank, and I've already driven a little bit. It shows fuel economy, speed and time, so that shows a digital speedometer, audio, phone, navigation, traffic signs, so the car actually reads traffic signs, driving support, the driver attention monitor, which detects if you're drifting over the lanes and it'll try to keep you awake, maintenance minder, safety support, and vehicle warnings. So there's a lot of stuff in here, which I don't really like the amount in all these newer cars, just that there's so many distractions everywhere. But it's not too distracting, as you always have a selected page of what you'd like to see. Now looking at the center display, you have an 8-inch touchscreen that uses Honda's newest version of Honda Link, which I really like. It came out in the Odyssey, which was really laggy, and I had a lot of problems with that, but they fixed those problems in the Accord, and now most other Hondas should have it too. But it's really slick and really simple to use. It's like a tablet. Like navigation, it's really simple to set a destination. You just hit where to and then type in the address up there. It's really simple, and you have all these hard touch buttons like the home button, back button, brightness, channel selection, well, which is the tuner, and you have a volume knob, which is, I'm really happy that you have a volume and power knob, because I did not like the slider in some other cars. And of course you have Bluetooth and all those different sources of audio and phone, and you also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is standard on EX and above, so that's any model with the larger screen, because the LX gets a smaller 5-inch LCD screen. The little special things about this hybrid system is that you have a power flow gauge, which shows information about when you're driving, and you have an AT&T hotspot, so that's 4G LTE Wi-Fi, which is nice. Most Hondas are getting that as well. And you have these 2 USB ports, which you can use for CarPlay and charging, and also streaming music to the car. But I'm really impressed with how Honda's done their infotainment compared to a lot of other brands. It's simple and it's very easy to use. And I also like how Honda didn't put the screen up high on the dash, just looking like it's just pasted on there. So I like how nice and slick everything looks. Now down here you have dual zone automatic climate control, so there's the driver temperature and the passenger temperature over here, and there's some preset buttons over here. It's nice that you don't have climate controls in the screen. It's all hard touch buttons, which I appreciate a lot. There's the AC button, on off, fan speed, modes, sync, auto. This turns on the heated seats. You have multi-stage heated seats for the driver and passenger. I kind of wish you had cooled seats. That would be a nice feature to have on this car. But there's a recirculation button, front and rear defrost. Now down here, like I said, you have 2 USB ports and a power outlet down there, and a really nice place to put your phone, and you can actually route the wire through there, and it's really nice for CarPlay. But this is an iPhone 8 Plus, and it fits really nice and snug over there, and it's not going to slide around because it's a rubber tray. And I believe you can get an optional wireless charger, I think. Don't count me on that though. Now over here you have Honda's push button select transmission, and it uses a variable ratio transmission, so it's not an actual CVT, so in that way it's kind of different. But when you put the car into reverse, which you click back, You have a backup camera, which I am really amazed with how good the quality of this camera is. You also have guidelines which do steer with the wheel, and this is the wide view, and you also have the normal view and top-down view. This model doesn't have rear cross traffic alert because it doesn't even have the blind spot, because you have lane watch, which if you put the car in gear or park, that's what you'll see, and you have little lane markings to show the distance of how close or how far you can be. But yeah, it's really nice to use, especially downtown DC. I can imagine this could save you and bicyclists from getting into messes and stuff. But you have an electronic parking brake and a brake hold button, which holds the brakes until you hit the gas pedal, which is a nice feature because sometimes your leg could get tired, especially on a long commute. Over here, these three buttons control the drive mode. So there's your Econ button, Sport button, and the EV button. So obviously EV would just have the car in electric mode all the time, but that's only when the battery is charged enough, and just depending on how you're hitting the gas pedal. Right here's the Sport button, which firms up the steering a little bit and also changes throttle response, and it has the gas engine running all the time. And Econ just reprograms the car to be as squishy and smooth as possible so you don't use as much fuel. There's only a little bit of a difference that the Econ button actually does. I kind of don't know how I feel about this material. It feels very plasticky. I just felt it. I like the texture, but it just feels a little out of place in this car. Now over here, you have a sliding armrest, which is nice, and sliding cup holders, which you can also remove if you just pull this little tab. They'll pull out like that. But they also do slide, and you have room for a big gulp, which is also pretty nice. And then if you just open this little thing, you have a little tray which you could put coins or your key fob, and you have more of the center console back there, which is nice, and a little place to put business cards or something, which is also nice. Now to continue talking about storage, over here at the glove box, it is not damped, which I'm actually pretty surprised. Kind of wish that it was damped just because it's not 2003. It's actually pretty big inside, and you could fit maybe a regular sized iPad and and of course an iPad mini, so I'm glad that they didn't take too much room from that. Over here you have a frameless rearview mirror with 3 presets for the garage home link, and over here you have your controls for the sunroof and the light controls, and they are regular halogen lights. I wish they were LEDs like other cars, but I'm starting to feel like I'm getting a little nitpicky. But here's the Honda Link button, which is like OnStar, and you have your Honda Link Assist button, which is like a 911 version for OnStar. And of course you have visors with lights and mirrors. And yes, Jacob and Yuri, they do slide back and forth, so they do pass the visor test.
That is fantastic.
Overall visibility is actually really good in the car too, because there's a lot of glass and there's not too many huge blind spots that are around the car. So it's actually pretty nice, and the mirrors actually do a good job if you use your mirrors. And you also have the lane watch, which all of this stuff really helps. Now getting into the back seat, the materials sort of deteriorate. This is all plastic up here, but you still have soft touch materials for the armrest and the side door panel. And like I said, the rear windows are not automatic, but you also still have a bottle holder and some storage down there. And the rear seat, actually, like the seat bottom, really looks pretty big and comfortable. So getting inside, you can see where the battery is. It just takes up this little hump over here. But getting inside, I'm at my set driving position, and I'm about 5'9", and I have about 2 inches of legroom, and I can stuff my feet under the seat. So I'm really impressed with the interior volume of this car, especially compared to the Prius, because I feel like, if I remember, in the 2016 Prius I saw, it was a little bit cramped. The center hump is not too prominent, so it might not, I don't think it would be too intrusive for the middle passenger, but realistically this would be a 4-passenger vehicle, unless if you have 3 small kids or 3 regularly sized kids. You have a folding center armrest with 2 cup holders, one's bigger than the other one, but it actually is pretty soft and nicely padded, so that's nice. And like I said, the rear seats do fold. It's a 60-40 split. This is the 60 part over here, and that's the 40 part over there. And over here you have more incandescent halogen light bulbs, and actually headroom is actually pretty good too. So I have maybe 1 inch of headroom, but if I put my head back, I'm just touching a little bit. But I'm still very pleased with how the headroom of this car is, or just the entire interior. So getting under the hood of the Insight, you have pretty respectable power figures. The hood latch is right to the center of the Honda logo, and if you just push your finger to the left and push up, the hood opens, and it's not actually as heavy as the Accord and the Civic's hood, but you still have a hood prop. So under the hood of the Insight, you have a 1.5 liter Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder with VTEC, so it's one of Honda's Earth Dreams engines. And it makes a respectable 151 horsepower and a pretty stout 197 pound-feet of torque. Now, of course, that's going only to the front wheels using an electrically controlled variable transmission. So it's not a CVT, but it's a bunch of preset gears. The engine actually just turned on. The transition from electric to gas mode is actually pretty smooth, but it does get a little jarring at some times. But for fuel economy, you should be expecting about 51 miles per gallon in the city, 45 on the highway, and a combined rating of 48. And I have seen other people get almost 55 miles per gallon in the city, and that's really good for the kind of car that this is. I'm really impressed with that, because before that you could only get something like a Prius, which has the hybrid look to it, and get 55 mpg. But I'm really impressed with that number, and we'll see how it does on the road. Behind the wheel of the Insight, my first impressions of the car is that it's obviously really quiet. And for what this car is, I really like how quiet it is. It does not feel loud at all. It doesn't sound loud at all. The engine doesn't really have that CVT whine like some other cars do, and the engine is actually pretty quiet, and it doesn't sound too annoying, and it doesn't sound too bad either. So that's another good thing. And you also have VTEC for this car. But just going up hills, it kind of just sits at the same RPM for a little bit, so it might get a little bit old. But just going on these little roads over here, I'm on my kind of back roads in my neighborhood, going on this little bumpy section. So far of driving this, I've actually been impressed with the ride. It's not bumpy or anything at all. Over these harsh bumps, it's not too bad. It's not bad at all, I have to say. It's actually pretty smooth, just the entire ride, which I'm really happy Honda did, because most other hybrids sort of have that stigma that they're kind of cheap and not comfortable, and that's why a lot of people have shied away from it. But I'm actually really happy with how this car handles too. The steering is actually nice and responsive. It's not too light, but it's not too heavy. So for myself, I'm actually pretty satisfied with how this car handles around at least these neighborhood roads, which are actually pretty windy and tight. But most of the time, I know you guys are going to be in the city driving in gridlock traffic, and I feel like this car is superb for those needs of commuting to work. The seats are really comfortable, even though they lack some other adjustable points. It's not bad at all. I'm actually very pleased with how the car feels and how the seats feel. It's just really comfortable. And my driving position, I think anyone can find a comfortable driving position that they're used to and that they feel nice being at. And on these bumpy neighborhood roads, it's not jarring at all. It actually feels pretty nice. And that's not something that I was anticipating. I heard great things about this car before, but I wasn't expecting it to feel this smooth. Like the suspension, there's minimal body roll, and it's not floaty over bumps, which is nice, but it handles very nice, and it feels nice. It's nice and soft, and I'm very satisfied. Now on EV mode, it's actually really quiet. If you're used to any quiet cars, like if I go into EV mode right now, it's just silent. There's no noise at all. All you hear is road noise, and road noise isn't even that bad because I believe Honda put in sound deadening and active sound cancellation into this car. So they really thought about you guys. One thing that you will notice if you're not used to hybrids is that the brakes feel a little squishy, if I should say. It's a weird feeling. It feels like the pedal's vibrating, but it's not like vibrating from ABS or something. It's just how the brakes feel because it goes through the regenerative braking. I can't speak. But also, whenever you hit the brakes or let off the gas, it's giving the battery a little bit of a charge. So that's nice. Now putting the car out of EV mode into sport, the throttle response changes immediately. And the sound actually changes too. It actually pipes in some sound through the speakers. And it actually doesn't sound too bad. But if I put myself in normal mode, it's quiet again. You do hear the engine a little bit, but it's not annoying. It's not loud like some 4-cylinders. Now let's see how this thing does in sport mode. So we're gonna pull onto this straight road over here, and it's actually pretty good. Now obviously it's not fast, but it feels very nice. And I'm actually pretty satisfied with how the car feels. And around corners here, it's not bad at all. It's a zippy little car. I'm surprised how much fun I'm having in a hybrid. Now acceleration isn't gonna blow you away. I believe the 0 to 60 time is about 8 seconds or something. So it's not mind-blowing, but it is still nice, and you still have a lot of available passing power on the highway. So you're not gonna be struggling and screaming like Jeremy Clarkson for more power. So the transition between gas and EV mode, you feel it. It's a little shudder, but it's just like auto start-stop in some other vehicles. So it's not too bad compared to some other hybrids that I've driven, like some Lexuses that I've tried out. Let's see that acceleration again. Put your foot down. It's zippy. I mean, that was only 60, and it felt like it took 8 seconds or something. But wow, the steering is actually really responsive too. I would have never thought that. In sport mode, it actually livens the car a lot more. And still, around these little roads, I don't know if you're locals, but you might recognize where I am just passing through. But I'm actually very impressed with how Honda's done this car. And I don't really have any complaints. For someone that's looking at hybrids and that are hybrid people, this is not a bad car at all.
So for competitors of the Insight, it would most likely be other cars like the Toyota Prius, Chevy Volt, Hyundai Ioniq, Nissan Leaf, and maybe the BMW i3. And for trim levels, there's only 3 of them. There's the LX, which is $22,830, EX, which is $24,060, and there's the Touring, like the one I have today, which is $28,090.
So I hope you guys enjoyed getting up close and personal with this all-new 2019 Honda Insight Touring with me today, and I hope it brought some educational value to you guys. And if you like my videos, go ahead and subscribe, like if you want to, dislike if you don't want to, or if you don't like it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye peeps. Also, special shout out to Sport Honda in Silver Spring for letting me take out this all new Insight to show you guys today.